Hello everyone and welcome back. If you have been following the saga of the Sussexes, you know we have been waiting for the other shoe to drop for quite some time. We have seen the awkward public appearances, the desperate rebrands, and the endless parade of staff walking out the door. But what is happening right now in Montecito isn't just a crack in the facade. It looks like a complete and total collapse. The reports coming out today are explosive, and honestly, they paint a picture of a woman on the edge and a marriage that is crumbling under the weight of its own ambition. We are talking about a full-blown meltdown behind closed doors, a business empire that is failing before it even really began, and a blame game that is tearing everything apart. The headlines today are absolutely brutal. Sources from the List and Radar Online are reporting that Meghan is in a state of total meltdown. And when you look at what is happening around her, can you really blame her? The house of cards she has spent the last 6 years building seems to be falling down around her ears. The narrative being spun by her camp is that she is being sabotaged. But from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot more like the consequences of her own actions are finally catching up with her. The Duchess of Montecito is reportedly furious. She is lashing out, and she is looking for anyone to blame but herself. Let's get right into the thick of it, because the details are juicy. The biggest news driving this meltdown is the staff exodus. Now, we know Harry and Meghan have a reputation for being, let's say, difficult to work for. We have heard the stories for years. The Duchess Difficult nickname didn't just appear out of thin air, but this time it is different. This isn't just a junior assistant leaving in tears after a bad week. These are the captains of the ship abandoning the vessel before it sinks. We have learned that James Holt, the executive director of the Archewell Foundation, has resigned. This is huge news. You have to understand, James wasn't just an employee. He was a true believer. He has been with them for 5 years. He was the loyalist. He was the one who stuck around when everyone else fled. He was the man writing the glowing press releases, defending them to the hilt, and trying to make sense of their chaotic strategy. If James Holt is walking away, you know the situation is dire. The official story, of course, is that he's leaving for personal reasons or to pursue other opportunities. Isn't it always personal reasons? It's never, I can't take the screaming anymore. But let's be real. You don't walk away from a high-paying, high-profile job running a global foundation unless things are completely unworkable. And he is not the only one. Meredith Maines, their chief publicist, the woman hired to fix their image and sell Meghan's new lifestyle brand to the world, has also reportedly quit. She didn't even last a year. Imagine that. You get hired to arguably the biggest PR job in Hollywood, a job that could make your career, and you walk out the door in a matter of months. What does that tell you about what is going on behind the scenes? It tells us that the atmosphere in that Montecito mansion must be absolutely toxic. The rumor mill is in overdrive with reports that Meghan is lashing out at everyone in her orbit. Insiders are claiming that as the business deals falter, the pressure has become unbearable. We are hearing the same old stories resurfacing, but with a new frantic intensity. The 5 a.m. emails are back. The impossible demands are back. The behavior that earned her the title Dictator in High Heels is reportedly back in full force. There are whispers of seasoned professionals, people who have worked in Hollywood and politics for decades, being reduced to tears by the way they are spoken to. It is the classic behavior of someone who feels like they are losing control. When you can't control the narrative, you try to control the people around you, usually with disastrous results. But here is the twist that makes this so fascinating. Meghan isn't looking in the mirror. She isn't asking, is it me? Am I the problem? No, according to these explosive reports, she is looking for scapegoats. The narrative being spun by her remaining allies is that she is being sabotaged by incompetence. She reportedly believes that her staff just doesn't get her vision. She thinks they aren't working hard enough, that they aren't smart enough to execute her brilliant plans. It's never her fault, is it? It's always the staff, or the British press, or the royal family, or simply bad luck. But when you have gone through a chief of staff, a global press secretary, an unnerving amount of personal assistance, and now you're executive director, at some point the common denominator is you. Fueling this rage is the apparent collapse of their business ambitions. Remember the big promises? We were told Meghan was going to be the next Martha Stewart. She was going to launch a lifestyle empire that would rival Goop, jams, dog biscuits, rose wine, cookware. It was all supposed to be flying off the shelves. Well, where is it? It is February 2026. We haven't seen a single product launch. The website is still just a landing page. The buzz from industry insiders is that Netflix is not happy. There are rumors that the footage for the cooking show was unusable or boring, and that executives are tired of throwing money into a black hole. Meghan, of course, is reportedly furious about this. She sees herself as a global icon, a visionary. To be told that her content isn't good enough, that must be a bitter pill to swallow. And instead of doubling down and doing the hard work to fix it, she is reportedly spiraling. She is blaming her team for not protecting her brand. She is blaming the timing. She is blaming the market. It is a classic case of denial. She convinced herself that her name alone was enough to sell anything, and she is finding out the hard way that you actually need a product that people want to buy. And speaking of people not buying what she's selling, let's talk about the social freeze. Remember when they first moved to California? Everyone wanted a piece of them. Oprah, Tyler Perry, the Clooneys, they were the golden couple. But have you noticed how quiet it has been lately? The A-list invitations have dried up. The Obamas didn't invite them to their big birthday bash. The Clooneys haven't been seen with them in years. Hollywood is a small town, and word gets around fast. If you are difficult to work with, if you leak stories to the press, if you bring drama wherever you go, people will distance themselves. Meghan is reportedly devastated by this shunning. She blames it on a smear campaign. But the reality is likely much simpler. They are just too much trouble. They are high risk and low reward. This professional failure is bleeding into her personal life in a major way, and this is where the blame game gets really ugly. When the money dries up and the staff leaves, who is left to blame? The husband. Sources are saying that the anger has shifted squarely onto Prince Harry. The narrative emerging from Meghan's camp is fascinating and brutal. They are painting Harry not as a victim, but as an anchor dragging her down. The word on the street is that Meghan feels Harry hasn't stepped up. She thought she was marrying a prince who would open every door in the world. She thought his name alone would generate billions. But in Hollywood, a title only gets you in the room. It doesn't close the deal. You need talent, you need grit, and you need to be easy to work with. Meghan reportedly feels that Harry is useless when it comes to the business side of things. He doesn't know how to hustle. He doesn't know how to negotiate. He's a man who has never had a real job in his life, trying to navigate the shark tank of the American media industry. And now that the deals are crumbling, Meghan is looking at him and thinking, you were supposed to make this happen. She is reportedly frustrated that he is mopey and homesick, dragging down her vibrant go-getter energy. She wants to be a power couple, the new Obamas, but instead she feels stuck with a brooding prince who spends his time playing polo and looking sad in photographs. She feels his family drama and his constant lawsuits are a distraction from her brand. It is a classic case of projection. She isolated him from his family, stripped him of his military titles, and dragged him to California. And now that he is isolated and struggling, she is blaming him for not being the powerful king she wanted him to be. She wanted a ruler, but she treated him like a court jester. And now she is surprised that no one is taking him seriously. Let's go back to Archewell for a second, because this is important context for the meltdown. You have to remember this foundation was supposed to be their legacy. It was supposed to rival the Gates Foundation. It was supposed to change the world. But without James Holt, without a solid team, what is it? It's an empty shell. Do you remember the delinquency notice, the paperwork errors? It screams of incompetence. And now, with the office reportedly looking like a ghost town, you have to wonder where the money's going. If they aren't producing content and they aren't retaining staff, what are they doing all day in that massive Montecito mansion? The silence from their camp is deafening. Usually when a story like this breaks, a story about a marriage in trouble and a business in freefall, you would expect a swift denial. You would expect sources close to the couple statement saying they are happier than ever. But we aren't hearing that today. We are hearing nothing. Or rather, we are hearing the leaking of specific grievances, which is often a sign that the divorce lawyers are already drafting their opening arguments. When couples start leaking stories about whose fault the failure is, it usually means they have accepted the failure is happening. They aren't trying to save the ship anymore. They are just trying to make sure they aren't the one who goes down with it. Meghan is positioning herself as the brilliant businesswoman held back by an incompetent team and a weak husband. It's a survival strategy. She needs to be the victim to keep her brand alive. If she admits that she failed, the whole illusion shatters. So she has to find someone else to blame. And right now, that person is Harry. This meltdown isn't just a temper tantrum. It's panic, pure panic. She knows the clock is ticking. In Hollywood, you are only as good as your last hit, and they haven't had a hit in years. The money they signed for in 2020 is running out. The public interest is waning. The victim narrative is tired. People are bored of the complaints, and she knows it. That is why she is spiraling. That is why she is screaming at staff, because deep down she knows that the dream is dying. The dream of being the Queen of America, the dream of the billion-dollar brand, the dream of being adored by the masses, it is all slipping away. And imagine the atmosphere in that house right now. You have Meghan reportedly storming around, firing off angry emails, calling lawyers, calling publicists, trying to find a way to spin this disaster. And then you have Harry. What is he doing while his wife is in meltdown mode? Is he trying to calm her down? Is he trying to fix the business? Or is he doing what he always does when things get tough, running away? We need to talk about the Dictator allegations a bit more because they are so specific. Sources say the workplace culture at Archewell is one of fear. Staffers are allegedly terrified to speak up, terrified to offer a different opinion because they know it will result in a dressing down. This isn't leadership, it's bullying. And it fits the pattern we saw in London, doesn't it? Remember the bullying report that the palace buried? We never got to see the results of that investigation, but the stories were strikingly similar to what we are hearing now. Crying staff members, shaking with stress, feeling broken by the demands of the Duchess. It seems that geography doesn't change character. You can move from Kensington Palace to Montecito, but if you treat people poorly, the result will always be the same. They will leave. And that is exactly what is happening. The blame game is in full swing, and Meghan is playing to win. She is setting the stage for the next chapter, one where she is the survivor of a failed marriage and a sabotaged business. But will the public buy it this time? I'm not so sure. We have seen this movie before. We know the script. And frankly, the audience is starting to walk out of the theater. But stick around, because in the next part, we are going to look at Harry's side of this mess. If Meghan is the volcano erupting, Harry is the village at the base of the mountain, waiting to be buried in ash. Or is he? Is he plotting an escape? We'll get into all of that in just a moment. So where does this leave Prince Harry? If Meghan is reportedly in meltdown mode, screaming about sabotage and incompetent staff, what is the Duke of Sussex doing? Well, the rumors about him are even more heartbreaking, and they point to one undeniable fact. Harry has checked out. He is done. We have to talk about the blame game from his perspective, because for a long time the narrative was that Harry and Meghan were a united front. It was us against the world. Remember that? They were the two palm trees connected at the bottom. But palm trees don't survive in a hurricane, and right now a Category 5 storm is tearing through Montecito. Sources are whispering that Harry is finally waking up to the reality of his situation. For years he was sold a dream. He was told that if they left the toxic royal family, if they left the racist British press, they would be billionaires. They would be the kings and queens of Hollywood. He believed, genuinely believed, that he was more popular than his brother, William. He thought the world was waiting for him to lead. But look at the reality of 2026. William is preparing to be king, looking statesmanlike, respected, and dignified. And Harry? Harry is reportedly being treated like an accessory in his own marriage. Insiders suggest that Harry feels used. He feels that he gave up everything, his family, his country, his military titles, his friends, to support Meghan's dreams. And what did he get in return? He got a podcast that was canceled, a book that made him a laughingstock, and a wife who is reportedly never satisfied. The word useless is being thrown around in these reports, and that has to sting. Imagine being a prince of the realm, a man who served in the military, a man who founded the Invictus Games, and being made to feel useless because you can't close a deal with Netflix. But that is the Hollywood game, isn't it? Meghan knows that world, Harry doesn't. And instead of guiding him, she is reportedly frustrated by his lack of hustle. She wants a shark and she married a goldfish. And this frustration works both ways. We are hearing that Harry is absolutely sick of the drama. He hates the constant battles. He hates the lawsuits. He hates that every time they launch something, it turns into a PR disaster. He just wants a quiet life, the private life they claimed they wanted when they left. But with Meghan, there is no quiet life. There is only the next headline, the next rebrand, the next battle to fight. This brings us to the most persistent and damaging rumor of all, the San Vicente bungalows story. Have you heard this? It's been circulating in the darker corners of Hollywood gossip for months, but now it's hitting the mainstream conversation. The rumor is that Harry has a bolt hole, a dedicated room or bungalow at the exclusive San Vicente bungalows in West Hollywood, where he goes to escape. Now, his team has denied this in the past, claiming it's nonsense, but where there is smoke, there is usually fire. Why would a man with a 14-bathroom mansion need a hotel room an hour away? Unless that mansion doesn't feel like a home. unless that mansion feels like a prison. Insiders claim that when the meltdown starts, when the shouting begins, when the staff are being berated, when the tension becomes too thick to breathe, Harry just gets in the car and drives. He goes to his safe space. He sits there, maybe has a drink, maybe calls old friends back in the UK, and just breathes. It paints such a lonely picture, doesn't it? The prince in the gilded cage, hiding in a hotel room just to get some peace and quiet. And speaking of calling old friends, the London calling narrative is stronger than ever. We know Harry has been looking for a base in the UK. He tried to stay at Windsor Castle and was told no. He tried to buy a house and face security hurdles. But the desire is there. He misses home. He misses the pub culture. He misses his old army buddies who didn't care about his title. He misses the banter. In Montecito, who are his friends? Meghan's friends, the Hollywood agents, the yes men, the people who want something from him. He doesn't have his people, and reports say he is profoundly lonely. He is realizing that the California sunshine can't replace deep, lifelong connections. There's also a sense that he is watching his father, King Charles, and realizing time is running out. His father isn't getting any younger. His brother, William, has moved on and built a solid wall of indifference towards him. Harry is on the outside looking in, and it is eating him alive. Meghan reportedly doesn't understand this. To her, the UK is the place of trauma. She hates it there. She reportedly has zero interest in returning. So you have a husband who is desperate to go home and a wife who refuses to set foot on British soil. How does a marriage survive that fundamental disconnect? It doesn't. We also need to talk about the timing of these leaks. Why now? Why, on February 10th, 2026, are we hearing about the blame game and meltdowns? In the world of celebrity PR, nothing happens by accident. When you see a coordinated wave of negative stories like this, stories that cite insiders, it usually means one of two things. Either the staff have finally snapped and are leaking like a sieve to get revenge, or, and this is the darker possibility, one of the partners is preparing the battlefield for a divorce. Think about it. If Meghan wants to file for divorce, she needs a narrative. She can't just leave him. She needs to be the victim again. The narrative that Harry's incompetence destroyed our business is a perfect setup. It allows her to walk away saying, I tried, I built this empire, but he dragged me down. It protects her brand. It allows her to say she is a strong, independent woman who had to cut loose the dead weight. And if Harry wants to leave, his narrative is already written. I need to go home. I need peace. I can't live in this toxic celebrity bubble anymore. It feels like they are both quietly positioning their tanks on the lawn. They are briefing against each other. They are living separate lives. We haven't seen a genuine, spontaneous moment of affection between them in ages. It's all staged hand-holding and rictus grins for the cameras. But the eyes don't lie. Harry's eyes look empty. Meghan's eyes look frantic. Let's broaden the scope for a moment and look at the Sussex squad versus the rest of the world. Even their most ardent defenders are going quiet. Have you noticed? The Twitter armies that used to attack anyone who criticized Meghan are losing steam. Why? Because you can't defend the indefensible forever. You can't defend a CEO who loses her entire executive team in a year. You can't defend a humanitarian who is accused of bullying staff. The hypocrisy is too loud to ignore. And let's not forget the financial pressure. This is the elephant in the room. They have a massive mortgage. They have massive security costs, millions a year. They have a lifestyle to maintain that requires A-list income, but the Spotify money is gone. The Penguin Random House money is mostly paid out. The Netflix deal is reportedly on the chopping block if they don't produce a hit soon. If the money runs out, the marriage ends. It is that simple. Meghan didn't sign up for a budget version of royalty. She signed up for the private jets and the couture gowns. If Harry can't provide that anymore, if he is just a useless anchor dragging her down financially, she will cut the cord. So what happens next? What does the rest of 2026 look like for the Sussexes? I predict we are going to see a soft separation first. They won't announce a divorce immediately. That's too final, too damaging to the brand. Instead, we will see them doing more things apart. Harry will take trips to Africa or the UK for charity work. That lasts weeks at a time. Meghan will stay in LA working on her projects. They will live separate lives under the guise of divide and conquer. But eventually, the facade will crumble completely. You cannot sustain a marriage built on grievance and paranoia. You cannot build a life when you are constantly at war with your families, your staff, and the media. We are witnessing the final act of a tragedy. It's a tragedy of ego. It's a tragedy of two people who thought they were bigger than the institution that made them, only to find out that without that institution, they are just two reality stars struggling to stay relevant. Harry wanted freedom. Meghan wanted fame. They both got what they wanted, but it cost them everything else. And now, as they sit in that Montecito mansion, surrounded by empty offices and silence, they might be realizing that the price was too high. The blame game isn't just a headline. It's the epitaph of their relationship. They are blaming each other because they can't face the truth. They did this to themselves. They burned the bridges. They alienated the allies. And now they are stranded on an island of their own making, and the tide is rising fast. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Harry will finally pack his bags and head back to London this year? Do you think the royal family would even take him back? And what do you make of these reports about Meghan's meltdown? Is it just haters? Or is where there is smoke, there is fire? Let me know what you think. This story is developing fast, and I have a feeling we will be back here very soon with even more updates. Until then, keep your eyes open because the royal drama never sleeps.